here we go. Next is so many things that we're going to talk about. Our next speaker, we have some of the speakers that are not live today, but they have a message from their heart. And so I'd like to bring up next is Jen Garrett. She is in the Move the Ball campaign, and she has a message of her heart for leadership. I ask each one of these, what is your heart for leadership? And so here's her message. Joe, if you'll bring that up.
I'm Jen Garrett, founder of the Move the Ball movement, author of the Move the Ball book, and host of the Move the Ball podcast. I believe that at the heart of leadership is authenticity, how you choose to suit up and show up to life, and what you do each day to inspire and empower others to move the ball. This movement and journey that I'm on started with my Move the Ball book. And one of the fundamental principles and underlying themes that I focus on is that as a leader, you are out there on the field as the quarterback, and it is up to you to drive forward progress with your team. That starts with having clarity and understanding about what the game is that you're trying to play. In other words, what are you out there trying to do? But then after that, it's about suiting up with positivity and energy and showing up ready to push your team to do great things every single day. I think that in today's world, it is so easy to get caught up in the noise, in the distractions, and in the negativity. And we as leaders are also human beings. And it can be easy for us to want to express emotions that are sometimes unpleasant and frustrating. But we need to remember that as leaders, people are always looking to us for guidance, for motivation, and for hope. So we need to be mindful of how we show up every single day, even on the days when we are not feeling it. We need to keep going because you never know who is out there watching you, who needs you, and who you're inspiring. So be that authentic and genuine everyday leader, focus on the heart of leadership, and let's move the ball and change the world.
Our next everyday leader is my friend Jeff Hancher. Jeff is the president and founder of Jeff Hancher Enterprises, a business consulting firm specializing in sales and leadership consulting, executive coaching, customized trainings, and keynote speaking. In addition to his accomplishments at Cintas Corporation, Jeff is a veteran of the United States Army and now the host of the Champion Forum podcast. His favorite leadership titles are husband to his wife Janelle and dad to his children Jake and Jacqueline. Let's give a big, heartfelt welcome to everyday leader Jeff Hancher. Mr. Hancher in the room. Mr. Hancher in the room. We are having we're going to get your audio here so we can you hear us still? Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now? I will have Joe work on that with you with your sound. You guys, this is amazing who we're getting in the rooms today. Talk about champion mindset. So you've heard from Gary Brackett. You've heard this message from Jen on champion mindset. Now, Jeff Hancher is the Champion podcast, Champion Forum. Everything that he believes about is taking you through a champion mindset. So, Jeff, can you hear us yet? Can you hear us yet? Okay. So here we go. So as we're working on that, we're going to work just a little bit behind the scenes here. And this is live, right? So this is live. I feel like I'm on a telethon, but I could talk to you myself for 6 hours. So that's not a problem. Here's something I want to read to you. I read this to my team of speakers. I posted this because I really felt like this was on my heart to get people ready. So I'm going to read you. It was yesterday's actually daily reader with the minute with Maxwell. You guys know that I'm John Maxwell certified. And I think this is really important for us to think about, like the purpose that we're here today, So it says, anything we do can be made important. Most moments in life become special only if we treat them that way. The average day is only average because we don't make it something more. The most excellent way to elevate an experience is to give it our best. That makes it special. An average conversation becomes something better when you listen with great interest. A common relationship transforms you when you give it uncommon effort. An unremarkable event becomes something special when you spice it up with creativity. You can make anything more important just by giving it your best. And this is from John Maxwell's book, 25 Ways to Win with People. And the last kind of segment that he says going away here is commit to give this day your very best. So I wanted to open up with that to just remind you, why are you here? What do you want to get out of this? If you are in the VIP section, you will have downloaded the VIP workbook. And I have to give a shout out to Bonnie Shrown right now. She put this together behind the scenes and she says, I don't want credit for this, but it's 50 pages. And she really worked on providing value to you. So each of these speakers has a couple of work pages. And then it's really a journal for you as well for the event and after. Jeff, how are we on your audio?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Fantastic. We're getting just a little bit, I hear a little bit of feedback on my end. Does it sound okay on your end?
Sounds great on my end.
Okay, fantastic.
I hear a little when I speak.
Okay. All right. Well, I have somebody working on that.
Sounds great.
All right. Awesome. So Jeff, you are on my heart. I ask you to be a part of this event because there are so many things that I've learned from you. When I first met you, we were speaking at our next speakers event, actually, for developing the inner circle impact of leadership here. David McGlennon's going to join us next. And we were at his event a couple of years ago live, and you were working through, I'm leaving my job and I'm going to do something completely different. Yeah. I want you to share with the audience because you made a big decision 2 years ago this next week. It was on December the 12th. So talk to us about when you were making that transition as a champion mindset person. Help us understand your perspective.
Yeah, Mel, this, and I don't know if you'd prefer to do a Q&A, but I did have something, maybe to share to the people that were listening.
Absolutely.
That was a pivotal move. I first met you and I was going through this crazy life change, but that type of change, I was no stranger to at all. And y'all are in for it this morning because I was in an amazing church service this morning. And it was so good. I stayed for the second one. And there was a moment in that service that our pastor reminded us of Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And as I started thinking about that and I started driving to my studio, it made me think about my journey, where I've come from. And that's really what I want to talk about today, is not just my journey, but to give some principles around it, because we're living in some crazy times that demand leaders are in a proper state of readiness. And I don't know everybody on this call, and everybody's on a different journey. Some of you may feel very prepared to make big impact. Some of you are probably maybe wondering, how did I get to this place? And how am I going to get to where I thought I was called to go? So what I wanted to talk about today, Mel, was the state of readiness. Because that was not only my leap from corporate, but it also got me out of a mindset of poverty, which is what I grew up in. And here's what I know about opportunity, is that it always presents itself. At some point, there's going to be an opportunity that presents itself to everybody on this call today. It's not a matter of if the opportunity comes, it's only a matter of when. The question we have to ask ourselves is, are we prepared to seize the opportunity? Have we prepared ourselves to become the obvious choice, whether that's in our careers, as leaders, as parents, as spouses, as community members? Have we prepared ourselves to become the obvious choice to be the person that's going to make big impact? 167 North Main Street, Washington, Pennsylvania. That's not an address that anybody on this call knows, but it's one that's near and dear to my heart, and it's the local welfare office. And it was at this office in third grade that I saw my dad, who was my Superman, crumble in front of me. And I got removed into the custody of the state. He was petitioning the state one more time for food stamps, and we weren't able to qualify. And this desperation led to anger, and anger led to an outrage. And I got to watch this unfold with tears streaming down my dad's face. And I didn't get to hear everything that Gary said. So if I repeat anything that he said, just take that as a sign that it's for you. But here I am in this zone, in this welfare office thinking, where am I going to go now? What's going to happen to me? Fast forward that, it was moments like this and many like that that began to shape me. And I began to say, instead of it's going to be more of the same, I began saying, this isn't going to be me. Not only is it going to be different for me, but I'm going to change the atmosphere around me. And what I've come to learn on the journey is, and Gary mentioned this, yes, there's going to be challenges. Yes, there's going to be setbacks. Yes, there's going to be adversity. Sometimes we can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond. I always tell people, you're going to be a thermometer or you're going to be a thermostat in this life. And a thermometer will tell you the temperature of the room, and a thermostat will change the temperature of the room. I couldn't control that my mom had a chronic fatal disease called lupus. I couldn't control that my dad had chronic osteoarthritis that led to leg amputations and not being able to work. My parents never worked a day in my life. That led to bad decisions that they made with substance abuse. That led to me being cared for people outside of my own family. I couldn't control those things. We can't control that there's a pandemic. We can't control political unrest. We can't control social injustices all the time. These are big problems, and we're one person, but we can always control how we respond. And this had become my mission. Fast forward from that moment, I found a good job with great benefits. I was transitioning from the military. My mom was sent home in hospice. My dad was getting his first leg amputated, and he needed me to stay back. I didn't want to be a burden. So I applied to a job that was picking up dirty clothes, a laundering service. And life was so good. I had benefits. Listen, guys, I was making, hold your seats, $21,000 a year, and there was benefits. This was more money than I ever dreamed of making. Life was good. And I started getting good at this job. So good that I decided I wasn't even going to go back. I wasn't going to go to college. I was supposed to be the first one ever in my lineage to get a college degree, but I was making $21,000 an hour. Who in their right mind would give that up? I start getting really good at being a truck driver. I start getting all the accolades and winning the contests. And I started seeing these real fancy people walking around the office, and they had the fancy shoes and drove the nice cars and all this stuff. And I come to learn that they were salespeople. And I decided I wanted to be a salesperson. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to drive the nice cars. And I interviewed when a position came open, and I bombed the interview. You know, this sales manager had the audacity to ask me what were the steps of a good sales process. Like, who asks that in a sales interview? Sales managers do, by the way. I wasn't ready to seize that opportunity. I wasn't in a state of readiness. I had been telling my pregnant wife, life's about to get even better. I'm going to get this sales job. And when they told me I wasn't getting the job, in my mind, I was saying, but don't you know how awesome I am? Don't you know that I'm such a good truck driver? Don't you know how good I was at the rifle range in the military and how good I played sports in high school? But here was the reality. What got me there, all those things, wasn't getting me the promotion. Why? Folks, not only did I not know a sales process, I didn't own a tie. I had to borrow one. I didn't know how to tie a tie. I didn't know what a collar stay was. I didn't know what shoes to wear. I wasn't serious about being a business person. My dream was big, but my effort wasn't. So there was things that I had to do along the way. And I felt like I had, at that moment, I had let everybody down. The reason I failed in that interview is because I didn't have the proper state of readiness. So here's the question to the people on the call today. What big opportunity awaits you next? And what have you done to prepare? Do you have the proper mindset? And have you prepared yourself to become the obvious choice? Here's another question to ask yourself. What will the consequences be if you're not prepared when the moment arises? Because it's coming. The opportunity is coming. And so I'm going to provide you with 3 steps to enhance your state of readiness. I'll kind of tell you how the story ends, and then we'll work backwards. I finally got promoted into sales. I went on to get 12 more promotions and reach a executive leadership level in a Fortune 500 company coming from rural America in poverty. Well, why do I tell you all that? Because I want you guys to know how amazing I am. No, not at all. I'm telling you that story because I believe in every fiber of my being that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, so much that I left that great corporate job to start my own company in December of 2019. When I'm asked, so how did you get from poverty and a truck driver to an executive in a Fortune 500 company. I felt like I owed people answers. So I'm going to give you 3 very practical things that I think you can literally take away from and you can apply or at least draw some self-awareness from. And the first one is accountability. You got to be accountable. Preparation, when I think of how I've prepared and how successful people prepare, preparation is about being proactive to deliver on a responsibility that you're accountable for, There's going to be tough days. We've had them. We're having them now, most of us. Maybe it's broken relationships. Maybe it's pandemic issues. Maybe you have shipments still sitting in the ocean that you need, failed business deals, social injustice, maybe sickness in your family like it was with mine. Maybe it's you, a loss of a loved one. What we could fill in the blanks of the challenges that come our way as we pursue greatness. This is when you have to focus not on what you don't have, but you have to focus on what you have left. To illustrate this, I want to read you all a story that speaks volumes to me. And I want you to take this back as you get this visual. This is called Paganini and the One String. There's a colorful illustration in the life of the great violinist Paganini, which shows the value and power of attitude on the pursuit of excellence. The colorful 19th century showman and gifted violinist Niccolo Paganini was standing before a packed house playing a difficult piece, a full orchestra surrounding him, and suddenly one string on his violin snapped and hung down from his instrument. Beads of perspiration popped out of his forehead. He frowned but continued to play, improvising beautifully. To the conductor's surprise, a second string broke, and shortly thereafter, a third string broke. Now there were 3 limp strings dangling from the violin as the master performer completed the difficult composition on the one remaining string. The audience jumped to its feet and in good Italian fashion filled the hall with shouts and screams, "Bravo, bravo." As the applause died down, the violinist asked the people to sit back down. Even though they knew there was no way they could expect an encore, they quietly sank back into their seats. He held the violin high for everyone to see. He nodded at the conductor to begin the encore, and then he turned back to the crowd, and with a twinkle in his eye, he smiled and shouted, "Paganini and the One String." After he placed the single string violin beneath his chin and played the final piece on one string, as the audience shook their heads in silent amazement. Why do I tell you that story? You know, when you're great, you don't focus on what's been taken. You focus on what's been left, what you have left. Paganini would have been well within his rights to say, "I'm the greatest violinist of the day. I'm not playing a violin on one string." But he's like, "You know what? I got one string, and I'm going to play that one string better than anybody on planet Earth." What do you have left, viewer? What do you have left, leader? Not what's been taken away. What do I have left that I can give the world? It was my responsibility to be prepared for that interview that day, and I didn't even know how to tie a tie. If your goals are tied to something with real meaning to you, you'll have to come to the realization that it's not about you. It's about what's important to you, and it's about the others that you serve. To draw some emphasis and maybe to ask you some questions around this, I believe that all of us are sitting in one of 4 camps in this life and in our pursuit to success. And camp 1 is, I hope it doesn't come up. Camp 2 is, if it comes up, I'll wing it. Camp 3 is, if it comes up, I'm ready to talk about it. But then there's camp 4. And camp 4 is, if it doesn't come up, I'm bringing it up. To be somebody that is going after true accountability, we have to be people that live in camp 4. If it doesn't come up, I'm bringing it up. I'm not waiting on someone else. If you know CPR and you see somebody laying lifeless, you don't wait. You go to them. Why? Because you have an answer to a big problem, because you're in camp 4. We got to have answers. I should have gone into that interview ready, but I didn't. I had trouble. Yes, there was trouble along the way. There were times that I wanted to quit, but I could not quit. I had to keep going. When I was a truck driver in my first role, I was broken down on the side of the road. And I remember writing, I still have this letter. Y'all can't see it that well, but I wrote this letter telling my wife I was quitting this job, that it was slave labor, that they were abusing me, that they were taking advantage of me. And I was ready to quit being a truck driver. It was a dirty, nasty job, picking up sweaty clothes. And I just told her at the end of this letter, I don't know if you're going to think of me as a failure. I love you and I'll do whatever it takes to keep you. Maybe you just need to talk some sense into me. I love you with all my heart, Janelle. Love always, Jeff. That was my girlfriend. Spoiler alert, I married her 25 years next June. She convinced me to hang in there. Can you imagine if I would have quit that job? I don't know if there would have been another promotion. I had to think about the accountability and what I was accountable to. The second thing is continuous improvement. Chasing your dream and your goals, it's going to require you to get better. The problem is never the dream. I coach people day in and day out. I'm in classrooms day in and day out. The problem's not the dream. If I ever have the privilege to sit down with you for coffee and say, what's your dream? You could probably tell me what it is. The problem is the people who only dream and they never prepare to take action. Gary talked a lot about this. What we have to realize is excellence is a journey. It's not a destination. We can't just celebrate the trophies from yesterday. We got to keep moving forward. Most people do not invest in becoming better because there's typically pain involved and there's discomfort in improvement. For those of you that went to Planet Fitness the first 15 days of January, know what I'm talking about. 85% of people that start a workout regimen are done in 15 days. Why? Because there's not enough Bengay on planet Earth to fix your problems. This hurts, right? It hurts. So we quit. We quit because we forget about why we started. Sometimes there is pain in preparation, but I assure you, there is also pain in losing as well. I know what losing feels like. I know what it's like to have only kerosene heat in your house. I know what it's like to have to cut pieces of tin from coffee cans and pop rid of them into the holes in the floorboard of your car. I know what pain feels like. And there's probably some people even on this call, and why you're on this call is because maybe you've cried your last tear. There's going to be pain for your lack of readiness as well. At some point, you will need to decide between what you want right now and what you want most. Between what you want now and what you want most. What you want now is to take a break. What you want now is happy hour. What you want now is more fun and leisure. But what is it that you want most? What do you want most? Are you willing to do what it takes? I used to be a boxer in high school. My uncle forced me to sign up because I was very misguided as a teenager. And this was a legal way for me to punch people. So he got me into the sport. And I went to the first session with a big chip on my shoulder, and the trainer could tell. And he said, Hancher, I want you to go over there with John. John, you're going to drop this on Jeff's gut 20 times. Jeff, I want to hear you counting out loud. So there I went. 18, 19, 20. And I get up, shake off the little bit of discomfort. And the trainer comes over and he says, son, what are you doing? I said, you told me to count out loud 20 times. I'm all wrapped up. He said, oh, my mistake, son. I didn't want you to even start counting until you started feeling pain. He said, because you're going to have to come to grips with something. You're either going to sweat in this gym or you're going to bleed in the ring. Either way, there's going to be pain. And I assume we just do it here. Go again and don't start counting until it starts to hurt. If there's going to be pain in winning and there's going to be pain in losing, you might as well go ahead and win. That's what champions do. Gary talked about it. I am agreeing. Continuous improvement will put you in a proper state of readiness. You got to get better. You got to live in Camp 4. If it doesn't come up, I'm bringing it up. And then there's the last one, which is engage your motivation. And this perhaps is the biggest. We've heard these stories of these moms lifting cars off of children trapped underneath, right? Have you ever thought to yourself, how is that humanly possible? I don't know if it is, unless you engage your motivation the way they do. Can you imagine this? This is unbelievable. You know, it reminds me of going to my first Dale Carnegie sales training class. You know, I failed that interview, but I still wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to be in sales, and I'm driving down in my truck, picking up dirty clothes, and I hear a radio ad come on, and it says, hey, you want to be great at sales? Come on down, downtown Pittsburgh, Dale Carnegie sales training. I call them, gulped whenever they told me it was going to be $2,500, and my wife told me we had about $2,700 in the bank account. And I said, look, if we're going to do this, I'm doing this. I'm uneducated. I don't have a college degree. So I went and I did it, and I got to that first class, and I had my best Dockers and polo that my wardrobe could find. And I go into this sales class, and there's people in there in three-piece suits and shiny shoes, and they were saying words I'd never heard before, and they talked the part and looked the part, and here I was just trying to put it all together. And I'm driving across the Fort Pitt Bridge after that class swearing I'm never going back. Those aren't my people. I've hit the end of the road. Things aren't so bad now. They're better than they used to be by far. So, hey, things aren't so bad. You know what I thought about when I was about halfway to my house? I thought about that third grade trip to the welfare office. And I wasn't going to let hell or high water keep me from my success. I wasn't going back to that welfare office. I got a sales mentor the very next day, somebody in our office. And I said, man, Paul, I'd really appreciate it if you could teach me what's in that black binder of yours. And in return, I'll give you some great sales leads. And Paul taught me what was in that binder. And I gave it all that I had. And on the 12th week, we did presentations, and the class voted me the #1 presenter in the class. I took that award into my general manager, and he promoted me in sales within 30 days. I couldn't afford it. I had to invest. It was painful because those weren't my people. But my why that Mel talks about a lot, engaging my motivation, it meant something to me. It was worth the pain. You can't just talk about what you want. You got to be about what you want. So I put in the work. I followed the proper principles, and I got that sales job that I dreamed of. And those first 6 months were hard. Folks, I sucked at sales. I'm just going to say it like that. Now, I got a lot of trophies in the trophy case now, but those first 6 months were rough. And my boss told me, Jeff, you're going to have to do probably 120 cold calls a week in order to have any level of success. And so I did that. By the end of the third quarter, he said, Jeff, there's an outside chance mathematically that you might be able to make President's Club. At the beginning of the fourth quarter of that year, in my mind, I was like, President's Club, I'm just happy to be here. But you know what? If there's a chance to make President's Club, which is the top 10% in the company, I'm going to go for it. And so I had a plan. And as I started embarking on this plan, I got a call from my dad. He said, I need you to come to the hospital right away. Go straight to intensive care. It's not looking good. And I got to get there just in time to see my mom take her last breath. Things were going so well. And the effort that I was putting in was so that I could take care of some other people. And now she's gone. But I knew, you know what? This is another setback, a major setback. I felt like giving up. I felt like everything I worked so hard for was to help take care of my parents. And now one of them's gone and the other one's not doing so hot. But I kept pushing through. And on the last day of that fiscal year, I made it. I made President's Club. They go on to tell me that they were going to fly me to the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. I'd never really been out of Claysville, Pennsylvania. And I arrived there, and people were dressed in such a way, and they took care of us like we were royalty. I borrowed my luggage. I borrowed a sport coat. Folks, the toilet paper was stamped with their logo. That's the kind of place we were at. I'd never experienced anything like this. And we get to the awards dinner. We get to that dinner, and it has all the fancy utensils and all the fancy things. And I'm looking around, and I said to myself, which is why Jeremiah 29:11 means so much to me. God, you've put me in a place to become one of the best. One of the best. And they called my name, Jeff Hancher from Pittsburgh. And I thought about third grade in that welfare office. And I thought about every trip to the hospital. And I thought about the leg amputation. And I thought about being there for my dad through chemo. And I thought about the last words that my mom said to me and all the surgeries that she faced. Walking up there to that stage, trying to be so professional. And I lost it. I lost it. I was an emotional mess. But I got that trophy in my hand. And I went to the first bathroom stall I could find. And I wept. And I wept. And I still have the trophy to this day. Why? Because it's a milestone. There were several success journeys beyond that. And I tell you my hardships to tell you, I understand. I understand pain. I understand setbacks. I understand adversity. Why I tell you about my success and any that I've had, and I'm far from the greatest, is that it's possible for any of us. I know things aren't ideal right now in the world, but I can tell you this: if you apply these principles, it'll work for you too. Be accountable, continuous improvement, and engage your motivation. Success does come with pressure. Leadership comes with pressure, but you got to see the pressure as a privilege. There's people all over this planet that are praying for our biggest problems. They would love our challenges. It's our duty, it's our obligation to do the things that matter most to us to help other people reach their fullest potential. By doing that, we reach ours. So I appreciate you listening to my story. I appreciate your help, letting me share my journey with you. Be accountable, continuous improvement, engage your motivation. You're built to make big impact. You're built for Jeremiah 29:11. And not only are you going to get to where you're called to be, but you're going to take a lot of people with you. Without these three things, though, you're going to become stagnant and you're going to become idle. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. The biggest problems create the biggest opportunities for the greatest leaders. Thanks for listening.
Oh, gosh, Jeff Hancher, if we could open up these mics and everybody would just be like, oh my gosh, my heart is so full right now. I just was like, I got to take notes. I got to find another pad. You are the real deal. You're the real deal. People need to know you. When I met you, I knew this. I love you. I love your heart. I'm so grateful that you're here. I hope, we're putting a poll in the chat and I think I see it here. And, here's the thing, right? What areas of your life do you need help with accountability right now? Because you've heard about champion mindset. But what are those things? Like, do you need a plan? Do you need to stick to a schedule? Do you need a circle of influence? These people are my inner circle today. I'm bringing you my inner circle. I want you to connect to every single leader here. They can give you strength, courage, energy like you've never known it before. Every day. This is what everyday leaders are about. People that reach out and support you every single day, whatever stage that you're in. Reflection. We're going to talk about this a little bit later here in forgiveness, but so that's the first thing, right? Answer those questions. And then the key activities that you're willing to do right now. I love your question. What do I know versus what do I want most? So what do you want now versus what do you want most?
Yeah.
What do you want most? It's so critical. And so answer these questions in the chat here, and we're going to connect you to Jeff. Jeff, I know you're in the Zoom room too. So you can go back here and answer some of these questions. And, your story resonates with so many people because how many times have we given up having to take care of someone else in our life? And that's a servant leader. And those are things that we're trained on innately, that when we step into that helps us to fulfill our purpose. That's our purpose. Yeah. I love you, my friend. I thank you so much for just showing up here today for everyone that is on the Zoom call. This is so critical. You guys, if you haven't joined VIP yet, I know that Anza is creating some links in here in the chat. So she's helping me in the back room on Zoom. If you have not downloaded the book, if you have not joined the VIP room yet, just do it now. Do it, because you're going to have the opportunity to get access to so many other resources, and we want to serve you. And so thank you for showing up, every single one of you. Jeff, thank you so much. We're going to just keep you posted here all day long, and hopefully you can join us in the Zoom room. You guys, if we said 6:00 Zoom, we had a little bit of a delay with Gary, the first section. So it's going to probably be about 15 minutes behind tonight. So if you have to jump off and jump back in, and you're in VIP, you will get a separate link for the VIP chat tonight. All right. So you're going to get an hour with all of the leaders that can join us, and it'll be about 6:15 Eastern time. So thank you so much, Jeff, again. And Joe, we will go to this next segment here, and you guys stick around because what we have is another speaker going to pour into